Hi, everyone, and welcome to Recovery Lifestyle, the missing link that sustains outcomes. My name is Megan Park, and my pronouns are they, them. I'll be the session support volunteer for this session. We will work to have some Q&A at the end of the session and hope to get as many of your questions as possible. Don't forget to participate in our conference competitions, such as the Exhibit Hall Passport Contest, Photo Contest, and Community Leadership Contest. The more you interact with the app and with our exhibitors, the higher your chances are of winning a $50 gift card of your choice. More details are in the Whova app. Make sure you have the Whova app downloaded and notifications on, as this is how we will make communications to attendees. If you have any questions, please see the registration desk. We have a confidential feedback form designed so that conference attendees, staff volunteers, presenters, and anyone else involved at our conference can have a direct reporting system for issues that come up, and to ensure that our conference is safe, equitable, and inclusive for everyone involved. Issues may include, but are not limited to, technical issues, accessibility issues or concerns, interpersonal issues or concerns, discrimination or harassment. You can fill out the confidential feedback form via a QR code posted in each room. The form can also be found in the Whova app in the document section in the RHE conference website. While the presenter is speaking, please keep side conversations to a minimum, as it may disrupt the sound for our virtual attendees, as some of the spaces have ceiling mics. And I will now turn the session over to Eve Goldberg, who will be our presenter for today. Thank you, Eve.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Eve Goldberg, and I am founder of the organization called Bigvision Community. We are a New York-based nonprofit, and I am honored to be here with you today at this 2022 Association of Recovery and Higher Education Conference. So a little bit about my story. 8 years ago, I lost my son, Isaac, who was 23 years old, to an accidental opioid overdose. I committed to do something to make meaning out of his life, and wasn't sure what that was going to be, but I kind of woke up one day with an idea, and I realized I just wanted to help other people and help them and help families from ever having to experience the same tragedy that I did when I lost Isaac. And one of the things about Isaac that was what was really challenging for him was finding ways to get back to life again once he was no longer using substances. So I'm here with you today. I want to open up a dialogue of what I feel and I know is of critical importance. So just to tell you a little about Isaac, who is our inspiration and really guides Bigvision Community. So Isaac was he was struggling for a number of years. The last time he was in treatment, he was in a 30-day program. And I remember picking him up afterwards, and he was sober and he was excited to start living his life again. But I don't think he realized, or I think most people don't realize, that 30 days in treatment doesn't prepare you to enter the real world. And he was completely unprepared, unfortunately. So he came back and he was told he lived in a sober house in New York City. And he was told that he was going to be introduced to this amazing young sober community in New York City. But little did we realize that that community was really in AA meetings. And if you go to an AA meeting and you don't really connect with other people there, you don't really find a community like yourself. You know, you have to be lucky to find real friends there. So he attended some meetings, he was in therapy, but his anxiety increased as he tried to fit back into his New York City society dominated by partying and socializing with alcohol and drug use. So he found that he couldn't really hang out with his old friends, and he desperately wanted to be part of an active community of sober friends his age. He had no clue how to make that happen, and so he isolated a lot, which is what happens. And I think we recognize that isolation leads down a very dark path. People need people, and even more so, young people need other young people. Sadly, it's too late for Isaac. I wished I could have done this while he was alive, but we're doing it now. So that's really how Bigvision was started, was to help other young adults like Isaac figure out ways to get back to living a quote unquote normal life, just not using substances. So looking at addiction today, what are the 5 critical problems that we are currently facing? Well, here are some statistics which are sobering. Every 4 minutes, someone dies from addiction to drugs or alcohol. Drug overdoses, as we've been hearing a lot lately in the news, is the #1 cause of accidental death in the United States. And more than 6 in 10 of these deaths of young adults involve opioids. An estimated 90% of substance abuse cases go unreported. That's unbelievable. And we think that we're getting so many people into treatment, maybe 10% of people who need it are getting into treatment. And then very sadly, there's a 75% relapse rate with addiction. So it becomes kind of a, what's the word? I mean, people are just in and out of the system, you know, and it's a revolving door, unfortunately. I mean, I know even for Isaac, he was in treatment a couple, probably 3 or 4 times. And, you know, it seems to work, but then what? And that's kind of what we talk about. We talk about, like, then what? What's next after treatment? So why is the current recovery system broken? I mean, we feel that it is, we know that it's broken. And #1 reason is that going into a rehab for 30, 60, 90 days, you're gonna come out sober, but sustaining recovery is critical. And this initial sobriety, we have to know, is only the first step in recovery. That's #2. #3, abstinence alone is not the answer and will not sustain recovery. You know, they, you know, call people, there's an expression, being a dry drunk, you know, and it's just like not drinking, but not doing anything to kind of get back to living a life without the alcohol. It's just not drinking. And it's a very sad life to just stop using, but not have a community to help you sustain your recovery. #4, sober young people have no clue how to find peers and reintegrate back into the real world. Why would they? I mean, it's a difficult concept. It's like, you know, people who become sober, you think, oh, well, I'm just going to go back and hang out with my friends who I hung out with before. But guess what? They're all doing what you were doing before, and that was drinking and smoking and whatever, you know, whatever else you were doing together. And going back into that world is just, it's not going to work. So sadly, you have to find ways to reintegrate back into the world. And #5 is what we believe is that the missing link is really a recovery lifestyle, which is a bridge to help you sustain recovery. So that's recovery lifestyle is, for us, is the catchphrase. That's our buzzword. It's like recovery lifestyle. It's not just being in recovery. It's not just not using. It's not just being sober, but it's like living the sober or the recovery lifestyle. So it means a life, a real life, a great life, filled with, you know, you're doing fun things that you love, finding your passions, hanging out with your friends, and doing everything that you were doing before, just taking out the substances. So there are changes that need to be made in the recovery industry today. So one thing is we must change the short-term task of initial sobriety, and instead we need to create this recovery lifestyle. That is key. We have to incorporate many things into this recovery lifestyle, and it's not just getting sober. That's the beginning. #2, we have to change this misconception that sobriety means boring. People think, oh, like, I'm going to be so bored. Someone said to me one time, I said, I don't drink anymore. And they go, oh, that's so boring. And someone who didn't know me, and my friend who was sitting at the table said, Well, that's one thing you can't say about Eve. She is definitely not boring. So that you're 100% wrong about that. It's like, because I don't drink, it makes me boring. Like, that's the most ridiculous comment. But how do you go to a party? I go to parties and I don't drink. And you know what? I have a lot of fun. I wake up the next morning, I feel great, and I remember everything that I did. It's a beautiful thing. And number 3, we have to educate and teach these skills to stay sober so that they become a part of everyday life. There are real skills that are required to do this. It's not simple. It's not a simple thing, but it needs to be taught, needs to be learned, and it needs to be incorporated into your life. And we have to do a better job helping save these young lives. We have to integrate recovery lifestyle into the curriculum protocol of the industry's recovery treatment in order to help people sustain long-term sobriety. Just has to be done. And how can we do this? So this is number 5. This is very key, and we've come up with these goals that we consider the Bigvision recovery lifestyle model. And they include 8 core elements, which I am going to go through. And these core elements are principles, home, purpose, self-connect, community, wellness, recreation, and relaxation. Now, this lifestyle model is really a lifestyle model. It's a recovery lifestyle model, but if you think about it and you hear it, it's a lifestyle model for anybody who wants to live a healthy life. It's not very complicated, but it's like, these are things that need to be followed in order to live your life and sustain your recovery. So here are the 8 principles. The 8 goals, core elements. So the first one is principles. So this obviously goes for anybody in any stage of life, but it's about honesty, integrity, humility, willingness, gratitude. These principles will help sustain your recovery. How? By changing your moral compass. You get opportunities to create better outcomes in your life. When people stop using, they realize that at the end of the day, the way they feel, the way they behave, it's just not healthy, and it doesn't make them feel good about themselves. So when you can create better outcomes in your daily life, it just feels better overall. And when you experience positive outcomes, you gain confidence and traction in your recovery. So, each day, that's why they say, one day at a time, but, it takes time. And each time you go through something and you realize, well, my not using brought about, I got that job, or I had a better relationship with my siblings, or could be absolutely anything, then you say, wow, this is a good thing. So maybe I need to keep treating people this way, and I need to continue acting this way so that I can continue to get these great outcomes. So the second one is home. So that also seems very obvious, but if you have a safe, stable place to live, that it helps encourage your recovery, whether it be your parents' home, a college dorm, sober living community, sharing an apartment with sober roommates. This is really important. It's so key that if you feel safe and you're in a stable living situation, the fear of the bottom falling out begins to subside, and you can enjoy coming home to hang out. I mean, if you're coming home to your apartment and your roommates are all getting high every night, it's going to cause a lot of anxiety, and obviously it's going to be very difficult to sustain your recovery that way. So you have to get out of situations like that and get into a situation where you really feel comfortable and safe. And when your home is a safe place, it gives you a foundation for sustaining traction in your recovery. And then all the other core elements begin to become more manageable. Like I said, it seems very obvious, but it's like keeping your home clean, making your bed every day, cooking dinner, cleaning up after yourself. All these things will help you feel good about yourself and help keep you on a path. Then the next one that we discuss as one of the core elements is purpose. So what do we mean by purpose? Purpose would be activities that give your life meaning. So depending what stage you're at, it could be school, it could be a job, could be volunteering, activism, some type of creative expression. How does that help you sustain your recovery? How does purpose help you sustain your recovery? By having a purpose in your life, it gives you a focal point and gives a reason to welcome each new day. And a purpose makes you feel a sense of accomplishment and encouragement. One of the things that we do at Bigvision, there's many activities that we do, but for instance, we started knitting classes. And knitting, which seems like something your grandmother did, by the way, which it's not what it's all about today at all, but it gives you're accomplishing something. Like whenever we do knitting classes, everybody walks out learning how to knit, and they take the knitting with them and they start getting creative with it, or they just finish. We do something really simple. It could be just a square that will be part of a bigger quilt. And they're like, yeah, I finished a square. Great. You're now a part of this community that worked on this quilt. And it just gives you this sense of accomplishment. And it's quite amazing. Simple things like that. The fourth is self-connect. And that is a heightened state of being. So listening to your intuition, having a strong internal compass. And the way self-connect helps sustain your recovery is, whether it's emotional, physical, or spiritual, by regularly checking in with yourself and tuning into what you need in the moment, you restore your connection to the self and you gain traction in recovery. Now, for some people that might be, a higher power. It could be many different things, but it's just kind of what works for you. So like it could be emotional, physical, it can be spiritual. It's just kind of connecting to yourself. The fifth core element is community. And we are like, they say the opposite of addiction is connection. So community is a sense of belonging with other sober friends, having supportive relationships with family members, mentors, neighbors, sponsors, coaches, co-workers. Social networks provide an opportunity for you to have hope, get support, and find love support from others. And we realize that community is so essential to help sustain recovery, because you can't do it alone. It's very difficult in life to do anything on your own. You always need some sort of a network of community. And recovery teaches you that you really are not alone. Connection and an ongoing support system are key to long-term sobriety, no question. And finding friends that understand your struggles and creating healthier relationships, you can then celebrate life's joys together and navigate life's challenges in a more constructive way. And by being able to, have a community where you can talk about your issues and listen to other people, you get a new perspective that helps teach you coping skills, because being a part of community, there are other people there who've gone through what you've gone through, but they've come out of it in a different way. And you might listen to them, or you might, hear something that just resonates with you and like, oh, you know what, maybe I should try that. Maybe that'll work. There's all these coping skills that work for different people. This is not one size fits all, unfortunately. It just isn't, and so you kind of have to find what works for you. So being a part of community is really, really important, really key. And that really is what Bigvision is about. We're all about community. The next core is wellness. So wellness, what's wellness? I think it's a term that's used a lot. Maybe it's even overused, but it's important regardless. So wellness would be self-care, mental health, good nutrition, exercise, regular sleeping habits. It's so key to help sustain your recovery, because the effects of addiction can wreak havoc on your mind and body. Even, saying like, after a night of not drinking, I wake up in the morning and I feel better. I've slept well. I feel good when I wake up. I don't have a hangover. And I can then get right to exercise. I have a good breakfast. Just take care of myself, take care of my mental health and my body. I mean, it's really important. And it's really important for long-term recovery. Eating foods that are right for you helps your body's healing process. I'm not saying this is for everybody, but I became plant-based. And people always ask me questions like, how do you do that? Oh my God, that must be so hard. And, how do you find what to eat, or where do you get your protein? And it's all you need. That's all I need. And I feel lighter and I feel better and my head feels clearer. So, finding what's right for you, but eating healthy foods is really, really will help your body heal. And obviously, exercise and physical activity will help repair your body and mind and rejuvenate you. I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is yoga. I just helps me. I stretch. I can't start my day without doing something to move my body. And it just helps me feel better mentally, physically throughout the day. And then ongoing counseling, if you can afford it, if you can find it, and I think there's a lot of ways to find it, is obviously critical for your good mental health. And then, like I said before, the sleep habits, it's huge. If you're going to sleep at a normal time and waking up at a normal time, giving yourself, at least, I guess, 7-8 hours of sleep is really, really important. So next, number 7 is recreation. And that's living your life with joy, fun, through hobbies, passions, creativity. And that also seems like what I talked about with knitting before. It seems like, oh, knitting, that's cute, it's a cute hobby, but it really helps. And you don't want your recovery to be consumed by spending time in therapy and meetings. I mean, if that works for you and that's part of your recovery, that's great. But that's not the way you want to spend all your time. And by the way, a lot of people knit in meetings, and it helps them because it keeps their hands busy. It's very meditative. So we found a lot of people said, oh yeah, when I go to meetings, I knit, or crochet or whatever it is, or do something. So it kind of keeps them busy. And just finding activities that give you that way, where you have fun and you can be creative, will also help you sustain your recovery. I mean, it's just, we need it. We need it. We can't live our lives, like I said, in meetings and in therapy and being so serious and going to a job every day and not having fun. You can't. It's not a full life. So we need to find ways to continue to have fun. And it's pretty simple. It's not very complicated, but you can do everything you did before and just do it without substances. And then number 8 core element is relaxation. And that is taking time to pause, taking time to meditate, do some yoga, sound healing, journaling, whatever works for you. Something that just helps you, bring everything down. So you feel more relaxed before you go to sleep at night. Once you come home, being able to shut everything down, start your morning with it. It's, we know the daily grind can be overwhelming and it causes very unproductive stress and anxiety. So use any of these tools, just whatever works for you to slow you down and give you a reset. You take time to pause, and that will be beneficial for your sanity and your peace of mind. It's key. It's key. It really is. Relaxation, it's not easy. I struggle with this. A lot of us struggle with this. Not an easy thing. And the worst thing is when someone says to you, can you just relax? Because we know it never works when someone tells you to relax. But when we recognize ourselves that is important, because it just helps us reset and get away from the craziness of our days, it's you'll recognize the importance of it. So those are the 8 core elements. And I would love to continue the conversation with anybody who's interested about recovery lifestyle. And it's a reality. It needs to be in the curriculum of the recovery industry. So just to give you, at this point, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about who we are, bigvisioncommunity.com. So we are really a one-of-a-kind nonprofit recovery support service. We help young adults 18 to 35 to see that a joyful and productive sober life is possible. We're in New York City, is our headquarters. We've helped over 10,000 young adults sustain their recovery. They find new passions, they learn life skills, they connect with a sober, supportive peer community. It's a lifeline, is how I see it. And we represent a new normal. Be proud of your recovery, talk about it. There's no shame. We want to get rid of that stigma altogether because there's no shame in it. And that's what people need to recognize. And we just show young people their social life isn't over when they stop drinking and using. We consider ourselves, like we say, we bridge the gap between the broken industry system and sustainable recovery. So we're like the missing link is how we see it. All of our events are free. And we, obviously with the pandemic, we stopped doing in-person activities for a while, but we're back to doing in-person activities. We do everything from sailing, trapeze, kayaking, go-karts, mini golf, laser tag, yoga, meditation, knitting, movie night, trivia, blah, blah, blah. Game nights, I can keep going. Like anything that someone wants to do, we'll do. Roller skating in the summer, ice skating in the winter, workouts. We do a basketball tournament every year, which is getting bigger and bigger every year. We had over 40 teams this year participate in our basketball tournament. Very fun and very competitive. So that will be in June. We do that to honor Isaac's birthday every year. And then we also host virtual events. And we have a recovery lifestyle on Instagram where we talk to other people who've written books about it, or people who are experts in their field talking about recovery lifestyle and how to, whether it's tips on how to go to a party when you're not drinking, or on the other side, it's also how do you have a party and be inclusive to those people who might show up who don't want to drink, which is important also. So we want to speak to those people out there who are also not in recovery, but of course, everybody is touched by this opioid epidemic. And we know everybody knows somebody who is struggling. So if you're inviting them to your party, you want to be sure that they're going to be comfortable. It's kind of thinking about, we talk about inclusiveness, but a lot of people don't see this as a part of it. And really, it's so important for people, like I remember Isaac was tough for us to even find a place to go out to eat because everything had such an active bar scene. And when he was early in his recovery, it was just, we struggled to literally find a restaurant to go to. So I just want people to be more understanding and compassionate and think about who might be in the room with them instead of saying, have a drink, come on, just one drink, it's not gonna hurt you. It's understanding that it's gonna hurt. There's some people it's gonna actually kill them, not just hurt them. So we have to be aware of that, and that's really important. So our virtual events, a lot of our virtual offerings really help people sort of understand what this recovery lifestyle is, how to live it, and how to be supportive of people living it. And very exciting, we recently purchased a 4,000 square foot facility with indoor and outdoor space that is going to be the first recovery lifestyle, Bigvision recovery lifestyle clubhouse, which we're hoping, which we plan on building out in other cities around the country. That's going to come. In October, we close on the clubhouse, and it's going to be a space where we can do all our events, and where sober people in New York City and in the New York City area can come and hang out and work on their computer, yoga, meditation. We're going to have a garden out back where people can, help grow vegetables or herbs, whatever we decide to grow there. And we're very excited about that. So that's coming up. And our goal, my goal from the very beginning was just to help save young lives. And that's what we've been doing. And it's helping save young lives. And it's also keeping other parents from having to experience the pain that I went through when Isaac passed away, and that I experience every single day. And I have many other friends who've lost children, and it never goes away. We live with it every single day, and it's got to stop. It's really got to stop, and we need to help as many people as we can, help them sustain their recovery. And together we've got this, and together we can really make this happen. So that's pretty much it. And if anybody has any questions, they can email me. It's eve@bigvisionnyc.com. And our website is bigvisioncommunity.com. And you can find, and we're on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and everywhere else that we need to be to, so that young people can find us. And so look us up. And like I said, if you have any questions, suggestions, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much again for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Eve. I'm going to stop the recording.